Welcome back to another very special episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my co-host and idea man,
Love Brokers, Alex
Gross.
Dandino.
That's going to sound way grosser and creepier until they know what we're talking about. But before that, a little business. Guys, it's official. Your friends here at the Film Alchemist are on patreon.com. That's right. Patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod for as little as $1 a month. And we assure you, every single dollar helps and is appreciated. You can join our community, meet our awesome friends over there, see what we're working on building over there together. And as you climb, if you can, the official Highlander tier ranking system, you can actually select the specific movies you would like to hear us discuss in a Patreon exclusive library. It's the best way to make this show exactly what you guys want and deserve. We appreciate so much the help that you guys give us and the support that you show us. It really means the world to us. We know dollars are hard earned, so we're working hard too to try to earn those. Over on patreon.com/filmalchemistpodcast. So for those of you who support us, thank you. For those of you who are about to, thank you as well. Go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel, Film Alchemist. See these lovely mugs. See if you want to buy that on the old hotline of the 70s Times Square. Just call our pimps first. Also, the email filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all the socials you're on. Thank you. Reach out to us. Get a hold of us. 5-star rating, reviews, all the stuff. That's enough business. I'm so excited to get to my cinematic gift.
All right. I love giving presents. Tonight, I am giving you one of my all-time favorite movies, actually. This is like a staple in the Dandino house.
I'm a little sad that you didn't just decide that we were going to talk about like 4 Frasier episodes, but that's fine.
I mean, that is for the Tossed Salad and Scrambled podcast that we will be starting later in life. Once the Film Alchemist just takes off and we're just like rolling deep.
We just become the preeminent experts in Frasier bottle episodes.
Then we can start our Frasier pod and that'll be like true. No, tonight I am giving you one of my all-time favorite movies, 1982's Night Shift.
Woo!
With one Michael Keaton. Probably, I think this is a breakout role, actually. And then Henry Winkler.
The Fonz.
Recent Emmy winner. The Fonz. This is, I believe, the second movie that Ron Howard directed.
Wow. Yeah.
But it is about it's about these lovely individuals who just are trying to help people out, and
they're trying to provide pensions, dental.
Pensions, dental.
To make our jokes at the start of the episode, for those of you who didn't turn it off and think we're creeps, this movie is about 2 morgue workers who work the night shift at a morgue in New York City. They come to the rescue of this poor group of prostitutes whose pimp has been slam dunked Space Jam style into an early grave, and they need help. But they're not pimps. They're love brokers.
Love brokers.
Comedy and hilarity and romance ensue. I will be honest. I'd never seen this movie before.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never even heard of it, if I'm being honest. My mom and I share a movie that we love, Dream Team. That was our Michael Keaton funny guy movie. We watch Dream Team all the time. Wonderful ensemble comedy. Love Dream Team. So I love early Michael Keaton. I love seeing comedy Michael Keaton. He's so fucking funny in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never seen this movie, and I thought it was fucking wonderful. It's just a wonderfully kind of wry script. It's very fucking funny. It has kind of that like black heart comedy that I love, right? Where it's just very cynical and mean at times. But very funny. But honestly, there's a lot of emotional support in this film that I was not expecting. It really works on a lot of levels. So why, Alex, is this a favorite of yours and you thought needed to be a Christmas gift this year?
You know, this is a movie that my dad introduced to me very early on because I love Batman. And I was like, oh, Michael Keaton. And he's like, oh, you want to see Michael Keaton? And we watched Night Shift. And I was like, huh. And like I had only seen Mr.
Hey, young
Mom.
baby Alex, did you think Batman was cool? Yeah, Dad. Did you just wish you had
Wasn't
more
necessarily a
boobs and
baby.
butts? I did, Dad, if I'm being honest. Come over here on Pappy Dandini's leg.
It is a movie that it's a highly quotable movie.
Yes.
It's something that we quote in my family pretty routinely in any sort of family interaction. But to me, what makes Night Shift special is all these performances work together. It's all against type. Like Henry Winkler was still doing Happy Days when this movie was being made. So
he was
like,
the fucking Fonz, man.
he
The coolest
was
guy in the room.
He was fucking Billy Blaze. He was the Fonz. He was the coolest guy. And in this one, he plays essentially Ron Howard.
I think we can debate later if Billy Blaze is actually that cool of a guy. I think we've all had Billy Blazes in our lives.
Oh no, he's an utter catastrophe of a person.
Maybe
But he's
been
very
Billy
entertaining
Blaze
to
at
watch.
times, but you need a little of that,
cool
of the
as-
spice, right? You need a little of the spice.
But it's a movie that has a surprising amount of heart for being like what you would think would just be sort of like a weird sort of just out there comedy. It has a lot of heart. There's a lot of little like beats that work really well.
Yeah, I mean,
It's very
just from
nice.
the opening scene, though, you can tell this is a movie and a director, a young director, Ron Howard, right? You can tell that he's got a real grasp on how to make a flick, right? The pimp running away from his pursuers, right? And then the scene, I was like, this is a fucking insanely cool opening. When they throw him out of the window, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see the shot under the hoop. He's coming down towards the hoop. The guy's going up to dunk. And as he dunks, the fucking pimp goes through the hoop, crashes to his death. And the guy goes, "You owe me $1." And it just lets you know exactly, like, this is a movie that they can give you the extras, but they know that it's going to be fun, right? They got the comedy down. I thought it was a stunning opening. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a great opening. The music's and it cuts right into the credits. The music's great. Again, it's got this it's a perfect like early 80s vibes. Like
It just reminds me of a less like Henry Winkler, I think, is the one you got to give a lot of the credit to.
Man,
He plays this one. You know what he reminded me of, though?
He's one of the all-time great like straight man parts in a movie.
Right. And I feel like I never saw him do this role enough, right?
No.
Because then he had his resurgence with like Arrested Development where he's like these cartoon characters, right? Or I don't know if it was even that. I know he's in Parks and Rec, whatever. I don't watch a lot of TV. But he plays such a good just like shit upon every man. He struck me as this like not pretentious and douchey Woody Allen type.
No, not at all. He's very much this put upon. He's a put upon person. He's a put upon character that can't stand up for himself. Like,
I mean, he's
kind
the
of
fucking loser
to.
that other losers would be like, "Come on, dude, come on."
Like and it's like in every aspect of his life. Because like Henry Winkler's character in this movie, literally, he's engaged to this woman who is obsessed with losing weight, even though she's already thin, and makes him feel bad about her like it's a very strange like again it's woman's a basket case that he's engaged to, but he's like there's that scene where she's on the weird I remember my mom had one of those bikes
dude,
that like
I don't know if you remember, like moms in the 80s were going through it. Like I remember
it was
when like
rough.
the Slim Fast started being in the cabinet all the time, and
Weight Watchers,
the Weight Watchers
the whole
came
shebang.
in, and there was like a pre-meal. Like I feel like mom in the 80s, and they were doing like the Thigh Master things and those fucking Tony Soprano suits. Like the moms in the 80s were struggling. I might have been the first time they're like really having these like crisis of bodies. Because I don't know when the fitness industry like became a massive thing. But I felt bad for them.
It's the 80s.
Yeah.
But that's like, so he's in his life, he's with this woman who just crushes him under her boot heel, like to the point where he like, but he has she just has no interest in his well-being. She has interest in being with this person. That's it. Like, it's not even love. It's just like transactional. And then he goes to work.
It's a very 80s problem, right? Is that, I've got a lady who, has some emotional baggage and she won't have sex with me. It was one of those. Have sex with. This is one of those like very dated things that happens in the movie a couple times.
Well, I mean, like she like when she makes him like not look at her when she runs into bed. He's like, "Are the lights out, Chuck?" Yeah, the lights are out. Are the lights out, Chuck?
Yeah. Why don't you run into bed, baby? You'll burn
Why don't you
some
run into bed?
calories.
You lose some pounds along the way.
He's so good. His timing is so fucking like whip sharp in
It's
this.
impeccable. I mean, for being a guy who spent his entire early career as this like cool guy character, he's like flipped that timing on its head. Mm-hmm. And the straight man bits are so funny. Yeah. And they shouldn't be. Like, that's like the really like that's the real charm of this movie is like his straight man bit timing is so clever. And it's so good because like the counterbalance is Michael Keaton, who comes in and he's just like it's Michael Keaton early 80s, so he's like just out of the clubs. He's maybe I was actually listening to Ron Howard on the Dak Shepard podcast, and he was talking about Michael Keaton coming in and auditioning. The people who were running the studio were like, "You cannot put this guy in this movie." I'm like, why not? He's like, he's all over the place. He has no idea. Like, how are you going to shoot him? He's like, he's an actor. I'll figure it out. Like, just let me shoot this with this guy. Like, he'll be fine. Like, but Michael Keaton was like on fire at that time.
Yeah.
And so for him to be this like chaos character that essentially like, it feels very like Bill Murray improvisation a lot of the time. Their two-hand is seamless. It's incredible.
Yeah, he kind of has like more of like the street tough Robin Williams thing going in this movie. Because his scene when he busts in is, I mean, he just kicks the fucking door in. And is
literally
just on fire. It feels like he doesn't stop talking for like 5 minutes. And
I don't think he does.
Funny. But not only that, like in his chaos though, he's building this really fun groundwork for who this guy is, right? Mm-hmm. The idea man, the eternal optimist, and he's like, "Oh, this place has coffee, and oh, this is great, right?
This is gonna be radical."
And
man.
he's just, "Oh, it's just me and you. Oh, great." He's like loving life, and then all of a sudden he opens the drawer and he just goes, "Is that a stiff?" And that's when the scene cuts. It's a wonderful opening scene.
He's like, I mean, it literally is like a mile, and he's like, "Oh, so we keep the stiffs, huh? Okay, well, can I see one? Can I take a peek?"
Yeah.
And then it's literally like the perfect. That guy's dead.
Yeah,
perfect.
It gobsmacks him. He's like, "What?" But yeah, it's because there is this. I feel like it's the two guys that you never want to be, right? Whereas Billy is kind of this like leech, burn everything down. Like we've all had that friend, and again, maybe not to our proud memories, have been this guy at times, where it's just everyone's like, "Yeah, that guy's pretty fun," on like a Friday. But, like, when you get a call from that guy on Tuesday and you're like, "Oh, fuck." Like, only ill comes from this, right? You're like, pretend you're not, like, don't take the call. Or else something bad.
I can tell you almost always I have always been Chuck Lumley in my life.
You have a specific Chuck vibe.
I have never been a Billy Blaze.
I feel like I've been a Billy Blaze, but never, like, as cool as Michael Keaton.
You've been on a roll before. I've been around you when you've
been on a roll before, but not like Michael Keaton in this movie. But yeah,
we've had quite a few night shift nights where you've really been Billy blazing it up. I feel
like guys though they drift to those extremes though, right? You either want to be Billy Blaze,
very much so,
or guys feel like they're stuck as Chuck, right? And really, we should all want to be way in between these two. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the fire and ice dynamic of this works really well. And I'll tell you something else. I didn't expect it, right? Because for a movie that I think is really unfair to the fiance and her eating and exercising, she wants to get into a wedding dress. I got married. I saw my wife go through that. My wife's very slender already. Right. But they're just kind of unfair. Like, oh, she just doesn't want to fuck him on his one day off, whatever. Well, what if she's got shit going on, man? Leave her alone. I think that's a little unfair. I think it's actually pretty progressive on sex workers. Like, I like the way that this is not a movie that's just taking cheap shots at women for being sex workers. And they don't become... This is the thing I loved about the movie. Because when you read the premise, and essentially, right, Billy's running all these side schemes, right? When he's driving Clint Howard around, I was fucking dying laughing, right? He puts the Billy Blaze sticker on the, like, he's like, it's a limo.
And the hat over the light.
Yeah. And Henry Winkler's like, it's a limo. It's the same thing. For corpses. And Clint Howard's just
what if we get a call?
Yeah.
That's a bit. What if we get a call while you're out? Well, they're not going to. They're going to go walk away.
Yeah, they'll still be dead when I get there. It's fine. But it's just so fucking funny, right? And then all of a sudden he gets this bright idea, right? He meets his neighbor who's a prostitute. She came down. For some reason, the prostitute had to come ID her pimp. This is how they meet.
Yeah.
She's his neighbor, right? Because when they're trying to have sex and there's loud country music, he gets, harangued by this fucking giant cowboy, right? Tex or whatever. Just fucking whatever. Long story short, they come up with the idea they should be the new pimps for this army of girls, right? This group of prostitutes. Now, I feel like 98% of all movies that were made in this era with this premise, you would see two white guys walking around in colorful suits, hats with fucking giant feathers in them.
The bit is
like
very
they were
much
African American dudes, right?
Exactly.
This movie doesn't do that, and I was shocked, and it's way better.
This movie does a very good job of leaning out of the you would fully expect someone to walk around dressed like the Mac after you're starting to
There's a small scene where you're like, during the montage, you're like, oh, Billy's getting into it.
Yeah.
But then when you cut back to the movie, he's not overdoing it.
But he's never wearing like giant fur coats or anything. Like he's literally just dressed like an asshole from the 80s. Like I think the worst one is like he's out like trying to like carnival barker in like a silver lame suit. And like it looks really bad, but like that's the bit. The bit is that Billy doesn't know how to dress himself. It's perfectly explained. The scene where we were talking about for the pod, the scene where Chuck comes to Bill's apartment to like agree to do the prostitution stuff, and Bill comes to his door. He has a like really like shitty robe. Oh, Chuck, how'd you get in here? It's I got to talk to that super. Jeez.
Yeah, this is like, a secure building. What?
There's a whole bit. But
he has his fucking sticker on the door, like Blaze Enterprises.
Blaze Enterprise, yeah, like he's a perfect huckster. But I do love there is no lean in. Like actually, the only lean you see is very like kind of earnest. Actually, is the Christmas party when they're both getting when they're getting presents from the girls, and Chuck's like, "I love presents," and he makes a joke. He opens his box. He goes, "Ladies, this is the one thing I've wanted this year," and it's this like fur hat. But that's as far as it goes.
It's a self-aware nod that they know the kind of movie you thought you were gonna watch. Yes. And that Christmas scene we'll get to. That's such a fucking powerful scene. But the idea that this guy is doing this as one, we can all make a shitload of money. You guys, instead of paying 80, 90%, will pay 10. Right? So he wrangles these girls. Yeah, after Billy does the like breakdown of let's break down the word prostitution, and all that's left is.
By the way, that might be one of the great unsung like monologues, breaking down the word prostitution.
Literally at the end, it's just really tit. That's all that's left. Just creeping it up. I don't
know what that means.
He wins them back though, right? But so it comes from this place of one, they can all make money, and two, because he's in love. He's in love with the prostitute, and it doesn't bother him that she's a prostitute. So there's a nice earnestness there, right? And we see the prostitutes buying nice stuff. We see the prostitutes owning a hamburger place. And when they throw that party for them, it is shockingly heartwarming, right? That they're just like, thank you, right? Instead of having, like we hear at one point, there's busted arms. The movie starts, we just see a guy fucking knock the prostitute out in an elevator and just walk away. So the movie is not coy about the dangers and violence that would have been present, right? And what it becomes is this group of girls and the guys, they form this nice little fucking bond where everyone that we come to cherish in the movie is actually happy for a little bit.
Yeah. Like every time, I love how the way that the movie, every time the real world actually does creep in, it gets punctuated by a joke. Like Chuck comes back to his apartment and finds Belinda. She's been beaten, and he's trying to help her in the elevator, and the elevator door opens, and it's actually a very young Shannon Doherty. Might have been her first movie.
Was it really?
Shannon Doherty, yeah. Oh. As a Girl Scout who basically blows a rape whistle on him.
Yeah,
and all these bluebells come out, and beat the shit out of him. But it's like, that's a great beat, but it's also, again, like, it's one of those things just like, that kind of shit actually probably happens a lot. And
but not only that, it happens to Chuck. Chuck might be the ultimate stepped on, my shoes are 2 sizes too small character I've ever seen in a movie. And what I think is the amazing needle that they threaded is that there's still a small hint of kind of, there's a twinkle in Chuck's eye. Even as he is just, there's a fucking like mystery dog. People are roughing him up. You know, you got a fucking shitty job. Can't get laid. Like whatever, right? Everything is not good for this guy. And there's a wonderful scene where he stops Thanksgiving dinner with his overly religious soon-to-be in-laws. And they all go down to the night court to bring Belinda her ID and shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they see the buttocks that she's bitten, blah, blah, blah. And the whole family's just, you got to keep him on a leash like I did his dad. They're just shit-talking, right? Shit-talking.
Everybody. The mother, too, man.
We're just pushing on him. He tries to say something. They're all pretty much like, hey, shut the fuck up. You don't get a say in your own life. We push in on him. And that's a really nice visual reminder of he found that one thing.
Yeah.
And he's ready to start building again. I thought that was really cool. And again, this movie is much more competently put together than I think you would imagine from the 2 guys become pimps night shift, right? Like you can imagine the other versions of this movie. I just think they always feel like they're making the right choice.
Yeah. It is a movie that, for being in 1982, which is like, you're just hitting like I mean, you're in the middle of like Eddie Murphy and all these like major people that are like making incredible R-rated comedies and everything. This movie just does such a good job of subverting all the expectations and like everything that you expect, and like I would call them like the groanable jokes. Like the one, it's going to come up. Oh, here it comes. It's not that joke. It's not the gag. Like none of it is. The whole movie is very charming and has all these wonderful setups. Like all these great moments to just let these actors do incredible work. Like particularly, Henry Winkler and Michael Keaton are just constantly left alone to their own devices in these scenes, and they're just working.
Right.
Like it's incredible.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so wonderful, right? It's like there's the scene where he should have to smack someone around because he's a pimp. Nope. He has fake muscles instead, right? He does his fake muscles. Whatever, right? There's just really cool shit like that. But like the scenes when, Winkler grabs his thing and he goes, remind you to shut the fuck up, blah. And Michael Keaton's just locked in a morgue drawer playing it back and forth. And I was like, this is very written, in that kind of like early screenwriter phase, right? Like make it cinematic and quirky and whatever. But Michael Keaton plays it so wonderfully. He does look hurt and sad. I thought we were friends. And they find that nice bonding moment, and they build on that constantly. Even though they could not be more opposites, right?
Yeah.
Always finding those little moments to kind of build with each other. Right? And I just thought it played really well, and it culminates. That Christmas scene to me is the scene of the movie, right?
It's incredible.
That's the
man.
Michael Keaton, like, oh shit, this guy might be like the dude.
So that's the range, man. Because Michael Keaton spends the entire movie up here. And he delivers this thing that's just like the story about him and his mom that are you're just like, how can you be up here the entire time and then just reduce the entire audience to tears in this moment? Like it's, I mean, and the thing that kills me every time is like he gets done doing this bit and talking about how his father treated him, his mother. He grabs his tape recorder and says, "Call mom, wish her Merry Christmas." God damn it, man.
Dude.
Again, you're just like...
Well, he talks about how his dad was like going at him when he was like even 4. And God, the line he said, my mom was beautiful, but living with an abusive person or a crazy person just takes a toll on you or something. Just a fucking devastating line. Because you match that moment, right? That quiet moment of the 3 of them. And then Chuck, what did you spend money on? I bought something. What'd you buy? He went out and bought his dad a headstone, right? He used to have the smallest headstone. Now he's got the biggest one, right? And we hear the way his mom talked about his dad, this and that. Maybe his dad was like Chuck and just kind of a guy who always got stepped on and looked over. Not anymore. Now he's got this big fucking stone that his son bought for him. It's this really fucking emotionally poignant moment, right? And that's like right on the tails of him throwing a fucking kegger in the morgue with the Clint Howard's frat.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, they really do pull off both movies, right? That there is this kind of like little romantic drama New York story wrapped in this big, like, we can sell a fucking, prostitutes in a morgue with a frat party movie.
Right. And I mean, so the bit also is that Chuck had to take the night shift at the morgue job because he was basically a stockbroker.
Nepotism. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, stockbroker too.
But he was a stockbroker and had a meltdown, and he like literally couldn't get up from his desk at one point, so he took a less stressful job. And like the cell after Michael Keaton does his prostitution beat, the cell is that, hey, we'll take almost no cut, but I'll take whatever cut I make and we'll invest it and we'll make more money and all this kind of stuff. He's like, I'm really good at this. I like that scene where he brings them all into the fast food restaurant and he's like, hey, we all own this now. Like, that's the kind of stuff. And again, like, you're like, in what other movie were you ever going to see this beat? Like, what, like, that's the bit, is that these guys are objectively terrible pimps because they give away all their money, but like, they're wonderful people to be pimps pimps.
I mean, they're making the money too, but like, that scene is great because in another movie, that'd be we'd see them counting giant wads of money and smacking asses as the girls were walking past them, and they just, because that's the thing, these guys are really lovable. Like, they just found this chemistry. And Belinda is just charismatic and adorable. You just want them all to work out and be happy. And in a tale that starts with a guy getting fucking space jammed to his death, right? Like, thrown down in a chair like a cartoon.
By the dirty cops, too. It's like there's a whole other, like...
Are those cops?
Those are cops.
What?
Yes.
Oh, I thought they were just like other rival pimps.
Oh no, I think they're cops. I think they're supposed to be cops. Like, there's a whole other.
But that's what I mean, right? So that's the world we're existing in to start the film, and we see Belinda get punched, and it's just this kind of a brutally cynical movie. It's hard to watch how shitty things are for Chuck for a while.
Yeah.
And she comes in and cooks him eggs, and like her outfit, it has like this weird tone to it. Like, wow, she's like desperate right now. Something bad is happening. But in that moment when he wins them all back and we start seeing the prostitutes get wins and vicariously Chuck get wins, and Chuck has now asserted himself. He's back at his little old fucking timey computer doing spreadsheets again, right? He's using his gifts. Mm-hmm. It's really cool, man. And I liked it a lot. You knew what was coming. The most cliche thing in the movie, you know what's coming, right? Is him and Belinda are going to come find each other, right? And they do. They have this great moment, right? They even talk about Clute. Like, this movie references several other great movies, which is always something I love. And you think they're good. And this is one of the hard scenes, right? They go back to the office. And Chuck was like, why are you working? I thought we were cool. She's like, well, I got to make a living. And he fucking loses it because now she still is going to lead her life. And he thought he had like saved her from prostituting. She's like, hey, man, prostitution's my job. Like, we hooked up. It's okay. I love you still. It's good. Or she doesn't say I love you, right? But she's like, we're good. Like, this is just my job. I got to take this client. And he loses it, man. And he fucking calls her a whore. And it was so sad. It was so fucking sad. And then she calls him a pimp.
Yep.
And it hurt, man. And, dude, Michael Keaton, again, though, with the moment when he takes her over and he goes, he's a weird guy, man. He probably thought you guys were, like, in love. And she just goes, so did I, man. Gut-wrencher.
Yeah. And again, like, it's such a well-paced movie. Like, particularly for that kind of stuff. Like, it's so, like, this is, like, the kind of, like, this is the kind of drama that gets punctuated by a joke that doesn't bother me. Like, this is the kind of thing that doesn't, it's not an obtrusive thing. It feels in the spirit of the moment in the movie itself. It's just really well done. But, you know, you get through all that, and then the climax at the fucking Copacabana thing is just,
well,
it's,
how about the fact that Chuck is about 1 minute away from just being fucking murdered?
well, there's that too.
That was intense, man. Because they're like putting a fire hose in his mouth and like, let's poke holes for the water to come out. I was like, oh my God, we're back in gritty ass 70s New York. What's happening?
Yeah, there's again, like, there's the real world that keeps like creeping in, and you always have a bit. And I think, you know, and it comes with like Richard Belzer being one of the cops that helps.
Yeah.
Because it's Richard Belzer.
Yeah. But okay, riddle me this though. What was going on? What did you think when they went to jail, right? So they're in jail. They're busted for pimping. Chuck fucking loses it, right? He's done with his fiance now because he's out there fucking pimping.
Right.
You know, and you get the Chuck and Billy moment, right? Billy's like, yeah, man, you don't hit any home runs if you don't fucking step up to the plate. And he's like, man, we were really going there for a while. He curses Billy. Curses him at that lawyer's office because Billy's like, let's make a deal. That was sad, man. I hated that.
It is. It's only, again, like, there's...
Because you actually loved these dudes. Like, not like I
you
thought they
love
were
these
funny.
guys by the end.
I loved them. Like, I wanted them to be okay.
Because you want them to be friends at the end of this, because you know that Billy means well, and he's always going to be this idea man guy who's just kind of fucked up. And like I'm showing up ready for tennis. You know, it's just
he's like, well, I already missed one lesson, you know, when we were in jail. I love that part too when Winkler's like threatening him and he's like, tonight you'll play tennis with God. What a line.
But yeah, I'm like,
but what was going through your mind watching him regress back, right? Where Chuck is just like excited to go back to being Chuck. Not excited, that's the wrong word. He is resigned to going back to being Chuck.
I mean, it's one of those, look, as someone who's been Chuck through a lot of their life, I can tell you, like, yeah, like, you feel it in your bones, because how many of us have, like, realized, like, oh, man, like, not many of us have run prostitution rings, but some of us have been on a ride.
This whole film Alchemist thing is building.
But some of us have been on a nice ride, like we were doing something we really loved, and we have to resign to the fact that nothing gold can stay and nothing lasts forever. And like, to me, that is like the ultimate. That's the like Chuck's resignation to that life is this like ultimate. At least as it begins, it's this ultimate, you know, like sigh. It's like this just giant, like, I guess this is just who I am. Like, I just have to be this person. Like, I have no choice. And I think that's the thing, is like characters like that. And I love those characters. I relate to them. And just, I love the way they're written a lot of the time, is characters who have choices, but don't see them. You know that, like, they know they can have what they want. And instead they sort of just resign themselves to this fate, because not because it's easy, but because it decomplicates something that, you know, a lot of the times movies like this are about life being complicated. And I think when characters seek out to avoid complications in their stories, that's where like comedy, but that's also where the pathos comes from, when you get to see them as we see it, you know, when Chuck goes back to his old life, this humdrum, horrible, kind of like decrepit existence he had.
Yeah. Well,
when he finally sees the real injustice.
Yeah, all these movies are wish fulfillment, right? Like, especially, I think a lot of these kind of like 80s sex comedies, which I don't know that I would lump this in as a sex comedy, right? It has some of the trappings of it, but they don't play the same. But these movies are male wish fulfillment, right? Is that me and my shithead friend can run a ring with all these beautiful women that are prostitutes, but they're really in love with us. And, you know, it has all of those hallmarks. The difference is that this one doesn't feel cheap in how it earns it, right? Like, this is a classic, like, everyone who has a fucking saves the cat. Dark Night of Soul. All right, we get it. You know, Chuck is chucking. The problem is that Chuck has become this guy who doesn't believe he's worth fulfilling a wish.
Right.
He sees Belinda in the hallway, and he won't be mean to her, but he won't fucking say anything. He won't say it. He won't take a shot. And it's fucking hard, man. It's hard because this is a movie that's supposed to give us what we want. And they do, but I felt really sucked in a little deeper at this. In that moment when he lets Belinda walk and she said she's moving, killed me, dude. But then you do get your, like, Rudy moment, right? Where he tells the guy, like, I'll never eat a fucking sandwich again that I didn't order. Go clean my door, right? When the, fucking creep just rubs the sandwich right on his fucking door. And then points at the fucking devil dog.
Points at the dog. You.
That was baller. But
see, that's what it is, man.
Yeah. I felt bad. I mean, it's funny because it is playing along the lines, again, of an 80s sex comedy, and I would not refer it as that. Because the sex is not the fore. Anywho, but yeah, again, and then he goes and he rescues Belinda, and it's fucking... That scene is great. When fucking Keaton swings in as the towel boy. I lost my shit. Because at one point they just go, where's the towel boy? And you know that it's Keaton, right? Yeah. I did not expect the, like, 1930 silent era swinging in the Tarzan outfit. He just, like, went and, like, poured it over with the prostitutes to being, like, a fucking jizz mopper. Hilarious.
Just the best.
He's so fucking funny in that.
Again, he has so many... When Chuck's about to get in a fight, he's like, "Hang on, Chuck!"
He fucking jumps and misses. But see, that's what I mean. It's such a...
Jumps, misses,
brilliant.
Gets up and goes, "No, it's fine. Fortunately, the ground broke my fall. It's all good."
I love that guy. When Chuck and Belinda had their kiss, he's like, "Medic." He's like right in between them. And it is this lovely kind of family unit that is formed between them, man.
It is.
There's just real love for people who finally are being who they want to be with the people they want to be with. And it's, as it plays out, and, Chuck is trying to stand up for her, but he gets knocked out. So it still feels okay, right? There's not that big, like, movie moment, right? Where he's, like, knocking out 3 dudes fighting his way out.
Nah, but that's not what this movie is. Like,
no,
this is...
They literally do The Graduate, and they just fucking run off into the night laughing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a... It's strangely anticlimactic ending, but perfect. Because we already know... This is like the great debate, right? We were there for the Sopranos finale debate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is this... Do we want more finality, right? Do we need to see their wedding, or they have a kid, and, fucking, what is his name? Billy's over there making a fucking crib, an idea crib or whatever. Do we need to see that? Or have we seen all we need to know that they'll be okay together? And them running off for adventures that we're not invited to, but that we get to author in our own imagination. Right? This is the thing. If Tony gets shot in the end of Sopranos, right, does that make that show better to anyone? The finale of watching Tony Soprano bleed out, that's what everyone wanted, it seemed like. Would that have helped, or did we get to keep imagining that wonderful world of Sopranos where a new mafia cameo every year? Like, I think as we've seen too, most TV shows, they do not get to stick the landing very often.
No.
And you're never going to make people happy all the way. I think there is something ballsy and magical to just say the story and the characters are leaving you fucking behind, but it's not over.
Right. But I think that's what makes a really great, I think that's what makes really great movie endings. Like for like Ron Howard as the author of this story, essentially to say like, this is the end of this story. You don't really need to go any further than this though. Like, do you really want to see their first fight or
but
all these other things
right?
But that's what you do. You yearn for that, and then
I can already hear the smartass who's like, every movie ends and there's more story going on. All right, I get it. Are you yearning to run away with the characters?
I'm not. Yeah, I saw all the story. I saw all the story I wanted to see of this character. I have nothing else to learn from him. Like, again,
I wanted to be at that bar that night. Billy in his little fucking Tarzan outfit, like that was going to be a good night.
probably would have been a great night. Or they would have just gone home and like made grilled cheese and hung out, you know?
I mean,
That's
maybe,
the
but I
Chuck.
would have made grilled cheese with him. That's what I was saying. I gotta say, I had never even heard of this film. I'm not the biggest Ron Howard fan. Not like I am against Ron Howard. I just feel like he makes movies for my uncle mostly. Right?
Yes.
Everyone's uncles, right? And you're like, that's not my shit. But like, not that he's like bad or whatever. We just don't cross paths all the time. But he does have, like, when I do, he has some magic to him, right? He's kind of like a more, you know, ditch digging Spielberg, if that makes sense. I don't know if that sounds mean.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? He just
That's a
has
good way to
that,
put
like, movie magic about his films.
I
which
think
I
because
like.
he spent so much time. It's interesting because like we watched, I listened to this podcast, this Dax Shepard interview he did, and I think because he spent so much time from childhood on set, I think it's just a matter of like you just learn what works for you, and I think that him as a director, particularly this being like his second movie, I think the first one was Grand Theft Auto, like it was a Roger Corman movie.
Wasn't it like Death Race 2000?
It was some car movie that was
Yeah.
it was a Roger Corman thing, and like this was his first like big studio movie. So I think for him to kind of sit there and be like he's young enough and he knows what he wants. It's a really impressive thing to watch someone who's like, and by the way, like someone who now has made like multiple Oscar-winning movies,
Yeah.
like made Apollo 13,
Fucking
Cinderella
giant
Man,
movies.
like huge fucking movies, and this like little 80s kind of like rom-com sex comedy like mashup is just like it's incredible. Like the what's assembled here is
I'd have to look at
what's
his
assembled here is
list.
amazing.
It might be right up there as my favorite Ron Howard movie now. Like, it would be close for me.
It is definitely mine, I can tell you that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's just it's a great movie. I would look. We don't talk about a lot of comedies on here. I mainly wanted to do this because I figured you'd love this movie. But I hope that I want everyone to watch this movie. Everyone should watch this movie because it has like it's funny, yes, but it has like a ton of heart, and I think that's what makes movies of this ilk better than better than the movie you think it's going to be.
Well, also, it's fun, too, to see a couple of artists that are on the verge of massively
All of these
impactful
guys.
careers kind of
Yep.
taking those steps together. It's just really fun. It's just got this dynamic energy. And, yeah, it's a very endearing movie. Like, it's just an empathy siphon for your soul. I loved it. Thank you, Alex, for my Christmas gift. What a wonderful gift it was. That's it for Night Shift, guys. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Again, guys, make sure to go support our Patreon if you like what we're doing over here. For as little as $1 a month, we appreciate all the support that you guys give us. Again, that's patreon.com/Film Alchemist Podcast. You can find us there. Make sure you go to the YouTube, Film Alchemist. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Share us on all your socials. We're there too. So hit us up. We will be seeing you guys soon. Next up, I believe, is a Christmas delight. We also have many more stocking stuffers to come, so stay with us. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex D'Antino.